Well, hello. Today I have a Jinhao 100 Centennial, which I believe is the tribute act to a Parker Duofold Centennial. This one is in a green marbled finish. I do have another one in a blue cracked ice. I'll come back to that later. I have it standing by just for a reason. Yes, Jinhao 100. Let us look at the pen. On the cap band, you have Jinhao and nothing else. You've got the ball clip there with the Jinhao logo at the top of the clip. Clip is springy enough to be quite usable. Personally, I don't find the ball ends of clips in general purchased that well. If you've got that in a shirt pocket and you lean over forwards, I've had this fall out, but I'll come back to that a bit later. On the finial, you have a Jinhao Chariot, which is nicely lined up and level with the clip. Then you have a black end finial / blind cap, which is not really a blind cap. Screw cap unscrews in 1, 2, 2.5, 2.75. That's nearly 3 full rotations to unscrew that cap, which I do think is slightly excessive. Not obsessive. The cap is not obsessed with itself. Excessive. Then you have a Jinhao number 6 size steel nib. It says gold plated. Doubt it. Plastic feed. This nib is a medium. You've got the section there which has a nice little flare out towards the end. I find that quite nice. Just keeps your fingers from pushing forward there, if that's your habit. Does it post? Kind of. Yeah, it'll go on there. It'll kind of sit on that end finial / blind cap / not a blind cap. Doesn't post very deeply, so it does make it very long enough that it'll barely fit in the camera frame there. Secure, yeah, don't feel great though. You do get a bit of wobble in there, so probably not one for posting, but it's decent length for me. So that particular aspect doesn't bother me too much. Shall we look at some measurements? Like Paul Daniels in his heyday, that was. See how I did that? Just slipped it. You didn't even notice I moved the pen. Jinhao 100 millimeters, grams for weight. Approximate. Capped 138. Uncapped 126. Posted if you want to post that. If you consider that a secure post, 175. Capped 28. Yes, 28 grams. Uncapped 18, and the cap is 10. The barrel is 13 millimeters, and just ever so slightly tapers down at the end there, but it's pretty constant along the length of the barrel. And the section, I can see maybe a possible slight taper in there, so I could only really gauge 10 mil off that with what I'm using. But as you can see, it just tapers down a tiny bit before it flares back out there. Yeah, nice. Cartridge converter pen comes with a cartridge with a converter, which has a stamp on there. Has it got Jinhao logo? It does. It has a Jinhao Chariot logo on there. Jinhao on the converter. There's a little bit of play in that converter there. A little bit loose. I think I've clocked some rattle there from time to time, but it's your standard international pull out, push in converter. You've got your metal threads here, and you've got a little O-ring there just to cushion the closure, which is quite nice, quite like that. And you've just got the plastic barrel in there, plastic threads going onto the metal there, but they go quite well, and that is a secure tighten. I don't find that loose or annoying. Hear any rattle? No. So not so much rattle on the converter in there, but it is a little bit loose, a little bit of play in there as it goes. Shall we check a comparison with some other Jinhaos? Okay then, let's do that. So what we have here is a tray of Jinhaos. There is a Jinhao 100. This is an X350. That is an X450. I will try and stop wobbling the tray. This is an X850 100 X159. This is a 51A. That is a 992. And that is a Jinhao 82. As you will notice, they are all tribute acts, clones, whatever you want to call it, to something else by and large. There you have a size comparison for those. Shall we check out some non-Jinhao pens? What? What'd you say? Yeah? Okay, let's do that then. Your wish is my command. And here we have the Jinhao 100. Next to a Lamy Safari, next to a Twisby Eco, next to a Lamy 2000 and a Moonman P136. Happy with that? I know, I'm on the ball today. Shall we see how it writes? Okie dokie then. So today we have Jinhao 100 medium steel nib. Ink in here is Graphon Faber-Castell, Moss Green, which is one of my favourite greens. I do like dark green. I don't know if you can tell if there's any clues around the place that I do kind of like a dark green, but I do. That was me. Nice writing experience. As I say, that little skip, that was me. That was not the nib. Nice and smooth. Little bit of feedback. No scratch or anything like that, but it's a nice smooth medium. Try it up fast. No problem keeping up with the flow there. Wettiness, not bad at all. Pretty decently. It's not a gusher, but there's a good flow there. Nice bit of moisture on your nibbage. Will it do reverse? It will. Bring it down to an extra fine or something. That is very scratchy on the reverse. So nice on the normal, scratchy on the reverse. Line variation can get a wee bit, just a wee bit, but it is quite stiff. You can get a bit out of that. Not a bad writing experience. I don't think I've had any hard start or skip issues with this particular pen. I will say I had it in my work pen case for about a week or so. I usually carry 2 or 3, as you do, because you never know when you're going to need a spare pen or 2 or 3. And I don't think I used it for about a week, this particular one. So then when I did pick it up, it did dry out. It had dried out a little bit. So cap sealing might just be a slight issue. I don't tend to get a lot of dry outs with mini pens, but I did have to prime that through the converter just to get that started again. It had dried up after a week or so's use, for full disclosure. So what do I think about the Jinhao 100? Well, so I think this is based on the duofold Centennial. If that's the case, then I do find it a nice size. It's a nice size for me, so it would tempt me into trying to get hold of one of them for a decent price, because obviously they, Parker duofold that is, would have better material, gold nib, etc., etc. But it's a nice size. It's a nice thing to explore and try out. Things I like, as I say, comfortable, sections comfortable, threads not sharp. You've got that O-ring just to cushion the closure there. Comes with a converter, which is nice. Writing experience is smooth. I haven't tuned that or anything. It's a nice, decent flow with a medium line. Anything I don't like? Personally, I wouldn't mind just a few more grams. It's not the lightest pen in the world, but I do like a little bit more weight in my hand. Just a few more grams I wouldn't mind. The resin / plastic does feel a bit plasticky. This one's a little bit better than this one, for example. So I kind of got the second one, the green one, just to see if it was a little bit more substantial. But I mean, it is plasticky. I mean, look, it's to be expected. I'm not necessarily getting down on it, but I wouldn't mind it just feeling a little bit thicker. This is better than the blue one, but just a personal thing. I'm not overly fond of the Jinhao chariot design on the finial there. I think I'd prefer that plain or something, to be honest. I don't mind it there. As I've mentioned, the ball clip, I have found that doesn't grip. If you've got that in a shirt pocket, I found that doesn't grip that tightly. I've had that fall out. I mentioned that the converter had a little bit of play in it. Again, that's not a massive day-to-day deal breaker, but it bugs me because I know it's there. I think 2.5, nearly 3 turns to unscrew the cap is a little bit excessive. You kind of go up to 2 maybe, but it's like that extra turn is a bit laborious. The finials cap and faux blind cap thingy do come off, and if you do, careful you don't lose that ring there. Doesn't quite operate as a blind cap. If that was a little bit lower, or the converter stuck out a bit more, you could use that as a blind cap to fill to gain access to the converter to fill that. But I mean, I suppose you could, but why would you fiddle with that when you can just unscrew the barrel? You could also interchange the coloured finials between Jinhao 100s, should you so wish, if you wanted to mix up your ends a little bit. This is actually solid in there, so that's not like the opposite ring. But they screw relatively easily, so if you wanted to swap all those around, if you had a collection of stuff, you could do that. Yeah, that's about it, really. Just on... Nope. See, I was going so well. I was in such a good flow, and then I paused for thinking. Shouldn't think. That is the Jinhao 100. Not bad. Price is about anywhere between 15 and 20 British pounds, I have found, generally speaking, like Amazon, places like that. I think that's a bit high, if I'm honest. I mean, on the face of it, you would kind of go, well, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad. For cartridge converter included, number 6 nib, all of that jazz. Writes well, solid, good pen, nothing wrong with it. But you can pick up an X159 for about half the price of that. So I find it a bit odd that would be about double the price. It kind of puts it in that a slightly different bracket. It makes you think a little bit more about it. I don't know. Am I being too harsh on the price guide there? Don't know. I personally feel that would be a lot more attractive at about the £10 mark. But there you go. I hope you vaguely enjoyed this, and I hope you have a lovely day doing whatever you're doing. And I'll see you next time. Bye.